So, have you all been going out on our website and seeing updated results?
When I was looking, I didn't see anything for a while, so I never.
You updated every day, you're updating every day.
Every day, well, that's funny.
It doesn't update.
So go to, hit refresh on your computer.
Yeah, it doesn't update every day. It's been not like previous elections where it updates every day. This election has been some.
Well, we didn't update every day. I mean, we are now doing it a daily update. Yeah, yeah.
It was a week or
There was a
somewhere
week there where we
wasn't.
didn't, yeah, there was a week where we did, and then we just decided, heck, we'll just do it every day. Because we do announce updates, and then we just, from there on out, we just kind of shoot from the hip a little bit.
Where do you announce them?
On our website. We
There's
announce
an
on our
house
website.
You announce them on the website? Every day?
No, I mean, what we did is when we, going into this election, we announced when we would do the updates, but that was only for the first, like, 2 weeks after the election. And then we just kind of played it by ear. But given the number of close contests and the high interest in this Chula Vista race, which is now 66 votes apart, we're updating every day.
Wow.
66 isn't very much.
No,
I mean, no, excuse me, I mean, 66 is actually a lot. That's not a very tight margin. No. It was 6 votes.
Oh.
At one point, it was a
Because
6
of
vote
that.
margin.
Okay.
Yeah. It's now spread to 66, which is, even if they do a recount, which they're talking about, you know, unlikely that the outcome would change in my view. But we're still counting votes. We're still putting provisionals into
How many are left?
into the count. I don't know.
They said there were about 9,000 last time we were here last
No.
year.
Or 2,000 on top of
It's
the
probably
paper.
about a couple of thousand still. So, yeah, and we're madly trying to get them into the count. So, anyway, so you want to talk about our 1%? I assume?
Yes.
Partly, yeah. So we have Deborah, so you're the just for the purpose.
Oh, for the camera.
Okay.
I'm the registrar of voters.
Okay. And Raymond Lutz, Citizens Oversight Projects.
Linda Pondicherra, citizen.
Sal, citizen. Sal Magdalena, citizen.
Valerie Shuckman, True Vote San Diego.
Okay, there's my new card.
Oh, okay.
I have this document here that I'm hoping that we can discuss these procedures. We didn't get I couldn't find a published procedure for what you do.
Oh,
And we were
I
trying
have a
to,
copy of it here. I think I passed this out. I'm sure I passed this out at one of our concerned citizens meetings.
okay, this is just a 1% tally.
That's the procedure for the 1%.
Right, okay. Yeah, I've seen this part.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want a copy of that? I'm gonna do any copies of
Yeah,
that.
actually,
Let me look at
that
it.
would help.
Another department to come in and do that selection. We'll write that up in the report, you know, as to who did it, but it was not our staff who did the ping pong ball draw. That's what we do.
Just random folks you asked if they would like
Just
to.
somebody walk off the street, you know, somebody might be at our front counter, somebody in another department, sometimes we'll go next door to another department and ask somebody.
I guess I do have one more questions about this because this came out in our meeting the other day. And this is actually from the other, kind of relates to what's done at other times. The number of ballots that's expected in the 1% tally procedure, was there some other count that is done prior to this that is not the scanner, the count of ballots that go through the scanner? I understand that there's a count that comes from the precinct, the poll workers, and there's a count because they're run through the scanner. Are they counted at any other time, any other way?
Let me make sure I understand you properly here. When, on election night, when the poll workers close up the polls, they count the number of ballots and they record that in the roster.
How do they count them?
1, 2, 3.
By hand, okay.
Okay, the volunteers count them
They're
by
counting
hand.
the number of ballots by hand, right? They're pulling them out and counting them.
At the polls.
At the polls.
At the poll, so the
Yeah.
poll workers record that.
Right.
Those poll
Right.
workers.
Okay, is
count
there,
those
and then
ballots.
that's,
And they're also balancing that to the unused. In other words, what they're doing is they're saying how many ballots I was issued how many are unused, so they count the number of unused ballots. They
You've
count
seen the ballot statement, right?
That's the
Ray?
balance.
That's the balance.
Let's go back to that, because I think before we try to answer my question, let's do this, because we're trying to do a lot of things that we can answer the questions that I have. Okay, in this precinct vote canvass procedure, blank ballots are provided at each polling place. You report how many, who provides them and how many.
Oh, we provide them, and we do several things. We have a chain
Now,
of custody.
who does it?
My staff, my warehouse staff. I mean, we pack we get all of those precinct ballots in-house, okay? And we have staff that go through for days, weeks. They go through every package of those precinct ballots to make sure that they're padded correctly, because they're supposed to be padded, and they're in sequence numbers, and they're supposed to be padded in groups of 50. And once in a while, you know, it's a printing operation. We have a very good printer, but once in a while we get a pad of 49 or maybe a pad of 51. You know, somebody slipped up and got the pads mixed. You know, so we try to resolve all of those discrepancies with the printer so that we have a totally accurate count of the number of ballots in a pad, because that will affect the reconciliation process if that's off. Then what we do is we lay out in a chain of custody document the sequence numbers.
Okay, do you have that document here? Chain of
No, I
custody
don't have
document?
it with me.
Okay,
I can
write that down.
give you
for the record here.
So we provided a document for the poll worker that is lists, you know, how many ballots we believe that we have packaged and sent to them, and that would be the number for English, Spanish, Filipino, Vietnamese.
How do you determine how many you sent?
Well, we develop an allocation, a spreadsheet based on the number of registered voters.
Is it equal to or less than or greater than? How do you,
Well,
what's your policy? Is that written out somewhere? What's your
yes, we
policy?
have a kind of an Excel spreadsheet that we.
What is there a document I can ask for, which is the policy?
I can, well, I don't know that it's a policy I've got, I can give you the spreadsheet that we.
Okay, well, what should I call that when I ask?
Ask for the ballot order spreadsheet. And then we reviewed that, because, you know, with the massive numbers of late voter registrations, we actually went through and we looked at that. For example, at UCSD, we looked at one of the precincts at UCSD that had doubled the number of registrations, and we actually added an adjunct precinct at UCSD, at one of the college campus precincts, because when we started out, when we were doing the ballot order, we had 700, I think, if I remember the numbers correctly, we had something like 700 voters there, when we ended up with 1,500 voters. So we said, okay, we're gonna, we did this.
Last time you had fewer voters than you did this time because you had more registrations.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so in this spreadsheet,
So
is
the
that include
ballot
the
order
policy?
spreadsheet, what we do is we looked at, you know, we try to calculate how many ballots. So obviously we don't want to over order, because it's a waste of ballots. We pay 28 cents a piece for them, and for the mail ballots at any rate. And so we don't want to over order. You know, they're heavy for the poll workers. And there are a lot of considerations here. It's paper, it's ink, it's chemicals, it's heaviness for the poll workers and so forth. So we want to try to zero in, and we don't want to run short. And the last thing we want to do is run short of ballots. That's the last thing we want to do. So then at about 15 days before the election, we actually went and we reviewed that spreadsheet, and we said, where is the big growth? You know, where are we seeing? Because, you know, naturally, the level of increase in voter registration isn't uniform throughout the county. I mean, it all raised up, but there were pockets, there were areas where, and precincts. So we went in and actually looked at individual precincts to try to determine where the, you know, where the increase.
You wouldn't do another print run then?
Oh, yes.
You
Oh,
would-
absolutely.
okay, all right.
Oh,
I didn't know what
absolutely.
your turnaround is.
Oh, yes. We're in constant contact with our print vendor, and we order more ballots, and we did. I can give you the details on the supplemental ballot orders that we did.
Okay, so I think that'll handle, if we get that, we'll understand how that's done. Voter signs in, okay, and there's a sign-in register. Is that, what do you call that?
The roster.
Roster. Okay. And first you provide the roster to the polling place, right? And that does not have the people that have already voted by mail, is that true?
Yeah, no, it has an M next to the names of the people who voted by mail.
And
I thought it was an A.
if
It
they're
used to be an
valid,
A, and we changed it to an M.
so if they've
The law
already been,
changed from absentee to mail.
if it's already been received you do that as well. You don't designate if it's been received yet.
No, we don't designate if it's been received. We
So if
just
they go in
have
and vote in addition to mailing it in, then you have to deal with that later.
No, with that, if there's an M next to that person's name
Yeah.
on the roster, that person votes provisional. That's why we had over
And but
70,000
has there,
provisional ballots.
but is that email that they've already voted?
No, we have no idea. We have no way of knowing.
Okay.
We have no way of knowing, because those ballots are flooding in through the mail. A lot of people drop those
Okay,
ballots
but you
off
may have
election day.
received some of them and voted
Oh,
and
sure,
signature
some of them.
prepared at that point,
Yeah.
so you would know those.
Yeah, but we don't put that out on the roster. There's really not a good way. And the thing is, we don't distinguish in the way we treat that voter. Whether the ballots come back or not, there's still a possibility for that ballot to be, in the mail, in our office, etc. So we just put the M next to their name. If they come in and they have that mail ballot to surrender, then they can
Get an
surrender
actual
it,
ballot.
and get a poll ballot, right? And then they would just vote a regular ballot. But if they can't surrender the ballot, then they vote a provisional ballot. And we mark on the provisional envelope the fact that they were mailed a mail ballot voter.
Okay.
And then all we do is we just make sure that that mail ballot didn't come back in.
Okay.
So that protects against double voting.
So are you using the vote by mail type envelope for provisional ballots? Is it the same?
No, it's a different envelope. The provisional envelope is a peach colored envelope.
Yeah.
You've
Okay.
seen them.
That was brilliant when you started to
Peach
submit those colors.
peach provisional, and then the absentee envelopes
yellow.
are, the colors vary. For example, the lavender ones are those people who vote during the last 7 days, where they can't be returned through the mail. They have to be returned, in person.
Oh, okay. All right. Poll worker validates a voter and they sign in the roster.
They don't validate the voter. I mean,
Don't they check the name?
they check the name. Well, they don't check anything. They say, you walk in and you would say, I'm Ray Lutz, and I live at XYZ Street. Then they find your name on the roster.
Right, but if it's not on the roster, they wouldn't be able to vote.
Correct.
Well, so
Well,
that's,
it's a
They vote provisional.
provisional.
yeah,
Then they vote.
okay. So, the voter receives a ballot then if they're validated.
Excuse me, although they could phone into the registrar for clarification on a specific voter who's not on the roster, and they sometimes end up voting. Because you guys say, go ahead and let them vote and write them in.
Well,
Really?
in every
Right, yeah.
case, if they're not on the roster, they vote provisionally. The only thing that they might try to do is say, they might try to verify, because so many people go to the wrong polling place. And we're very lenient with our voters in San Diego County. I've gotten reports from people, and they're anecdotal, but, where counties will say, no, you can't vote here. We don't do that. We say, where are you registered to vote? Maybe they'll try to say, oh, you should be over at that precinct over there, and try to direct them to the correct precinct. And we would do that for a couple of reasons. One, because then if they go to their correct precinct, they vote a regular ballot, and they're sure to vote on all the things that they're entitled to vote for. It also saves us a lot of work, to be honest with you. Those provisional ballots, you've seen, you've been out there, it's a tremendous amount of work for us, so it's a big cost to the county.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
now, when they receive the ballot, that's recorded on the sign-in register that they've gotten the ballot somehow, right? And
well, they're supposed to sign the roster. When the voter comes in, they're supposed to sign the roster. If they're voting provisional, they're supposed to sign the peach roster
I
so,
thought they were
but
supposed to sign the envelope.
and the envelope.
do they
Yes.
keep track of how many ballots have been handed out as they're going?
No,
No.
they do that at the end of the night.
They recount it?
That's the reconciliation process that they go through.
Did you have problems where people took ballots to different precincts? Like they got a
Oh,
ballot and
sometimes
left?
they might, yeah. Sometimes they might, if a voter gets a ballot and they walk out of the polls with it, you might not see it.
The signature that I signed in the book, does anybody actually look at that signature and compare it to the one I signed when I originally did, which I'm not even sure is in there?
We don't verify the signatures in the roster to the signature on the affidavit, as a routine matter.
Because the
I mean, I
affidavit's
suppose
somewhere
it's-
else, right?
When would you?
In the book itself, is there my signature from before or not?
No,
No, so now they wouldn't have anything to compare it to.
no, they don't have anything to compare
You said as a routine matter, they would check it. What
Yeah,
would
I guess if there was some allegation of something, you know, it'd have to be, you know, a pretty serious allegation of some issue, then we might. But to my knowledge, I don't know that we've ever done. We do check every signature on the provisional envelope
then vote back?
and every signature on the mail ballot envelope, yes.
Okay, I have, we already talked about this provisional ballot, is, if they're not on the roster, they're provided with a provisional ballot, and it's processed kind of like the vote by mail ballots, right?
Yeah.
Because the identity of the voter has to be maintained on the ballot. With the
Well,
ballot.
yeah, we have to make sure that, we're talking about a provisional ballot now?
Yeah.
We get their driver's license information, their name, their
But
address.
that's on the
their date of
envelope,
birth. That's
right?
on the envelope.
Right.
That's not on the ballot itself?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Right, it's on the peach envelope.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Is there a list maintained for provisional ballots by the poll workers or something?
Yep, they have a roster,
There is.
that's the peach roster.
Oh, another peach roster. Okay, so I guess we need to get all of it. I need to get all of the poll worker.
Kit, so to speak.
Well, I can give you a copy of the poll worker manual and all.
It's
No,
online,
The
too.
things that are in the kit.
Really? Okay.
Ray, I think you want to see all the different
I
papers
just want
that
to make
are
sure I understand you.
given out
Mhm.
to the poll workers.
Exactly.
A little
Okay.
packet of
Because then I'll have
package of
less
stuff.
questions if I see them.
Before they start at the poll, do they count all the ballots that were issued? They
Yes,
don't? They
yes,
do?
they do. This
Okay.
is what I was trying to explain them, you know, the process. Because after our people in the warehouse go through and try to make sure that those things are padded properly, the sequence numbers are all, you know, correct and everything, then they prepare this chain of custody document, and then what we tell the poll workers is, go home, check those, and verify that, you know, those ballots, you've got the proper quantity and the proper sequence numbers on there. So yes, they are supposed to check those.
Right, and your point is that you can only train to a certain procedure and policy, and what they do out in the field, you can't monitor everything. I understand that, but I would be curious to know, that particular step is pretty important.
It is,
You know.
Sure.
When I was actually in the, I guess, issues area,
Uh-huh.
there was a call that came in where a person was missing a complete packet of votes, of ballots, okay?
Okay, yeah.
And basically, when he was counting them in the morning, he'd say, okay, here's a packet that starts at 2000 and ends at 2050, next one starts at 2051, ends at 2100, and then next thing you know, there was the 2100 to 2150 was missing.
Was missing.
And then there was the next 50 packet was there, and I mean, just by listening from the area, people were saying that he had already checked every ballot. He looked at the different language ballots, tried to find that.
Yeah, sometimes, you know.
So I mean, what is the procedure for that
Yeah,
when that occurs?
we would note it, so that we would either make a note of it, and, you know, I don't know the specifics, so I'm dealing, this is a generality
Right.
here, okay? But we would do one of two things. One, if they were missing ballots, you know, a package of ballots such that we felt that they were going to be short, then we would get another, you know, we would get, you know, supplemental ballots out for them, okay? And we did have some. We had some supplemental ballots that were here waiting to go out in the supplemental ballot that we did. 'Cause, you know, like I said, we were constantly watching the registration figures. And so, at any rate, we could either send ballots out, we could just monitor the situation, we would let the troubleshooter know, we might do a dispatch, we might not, depending on the situation, you know, what it was, the number of ballots, et cetera. But we would certainly monitor that situation.
And then the second part would be an investigation of why they're
Right,
missing.
that was the second part of my
Well,
question. How do you track it down? I mean,
sometimes you know, generally speaking, the poll workers kind of panic and they're there, but they just don't find them.
Mhm. But there's documentation of the resolution of that.
Yes, we would resolve it, you know,
I
did we
mean, like
find
if
them?
it
Did
gets
we not
sent to a
find
different
them?
precinct, did anybody ever vote those ballots?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, we would look into that.
And the report of those types of incidents and the resolution is a written report?
Well, we do and we're working on it still. We haven't finished counting
Right.
the ballots for this election, so we certainly haven't finished all the cleanup work, you know, I would consider that, you know, a lot of cleanup.
Does that get included in the
And-
certification report?
No, that doesn't go
Okay.
into the certification, but we will perform that, you know, we'll perform that function. We'll be cleaning up, preparing hotline reports, dispatch reports. And in fact, I think we have, I don't want to misspeak here, but we're already getting that together. We do a big debrief that we've scheduled for January. We get all the management staff and we do a brief debrief and we look at a lot of those
What
reports.
worked and what didn't work.
Well, and I guess the key point there is how many of those were missing, right? That's an important
Yeah,
thing.
how many were reported missing versus how many were actually missing? And
Right.
sometimes we'll get a dispatch out there. We don't question them too much. We'll just get somebody out there.
Well, you know, I mean, my obvious concern is that that packet goes missing and somebody actually just votes those ballots on, you know.
Well, that's a reconciliation issue. That's why, we go through and we reconcile the number of signatures in the roster to the number of ballots issued, used, unused, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something about home. Does the head poll worker take some amount of stuff at home, have a lot of things delivered to their home? Still getting the machine likely, and then a bunch of packets of stuff all at one person's house?
Well, the supply delivery is done the second weekend before the election. We call it our SUPU, or supply pickup weekend. We have 10 days before the election. We take trucks out to one of we had 28 pickup sites throughout the county this SUPU weekend. And the trucks go out, and then the precinct inspector comes and they pick up the voting booths, the polling signs, the boxes with the supplies and the ballots in them, and they take those. The touchscreen inspector comes and they pick up the touchscreen, which is in the bag, and the box with the printer
Seal.
accessories in it.
Now, the touchscreens, are they delivered early to the poll sites? I thought they were
No.
delivered the day of the election, like the
They're
night
brought there
before.
the day of, right,
Okay.
they're brought the day of, yes, they're set up the day of. And our whole troubleshooter program, and we have, I think we had 228 troubleshooters out there, and the troubleshooters are there to help the poll workers get those set up, and troubleshoot any problems.
Mhm.
Okay.
Excuse me, quick
Go ahead.
question. Do you
Sure.
have any idea how many people voted on a machine, including inside this office?
Approximately, we don't have the final number, approximately 750.
Right, and a lot of them were at the UCSD, when one of the
Wait,
precincts
I
didn't
don't
have
have
the
the breakdown.
ballots or something.
I don't have the breakdown.
And that includes people that came in and voted here?
Yes. So, out of 1,200,000 and some thousand.
While we're on
So
this,
it's too many decimal points for me to calculate.
Yes, 1/100th of it.
But,
One probably 10,000.
on this issue of distributing the ballots, were there any precincts that did run out of paper ballots?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. But that would be included in whatever
That
your
would be
final
included in our
report.
reports, we get all of that
Okay.
information pulled together.
I actually heard that they did run out of ballots in that issues room at one location, and the person said that they were waiting up to 3 hours to get some.
I don't have confirmation of that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we can.
I don't
check
have
that
my
out.
notes with me, but I know that I do remember something to that effect.
Okay, in order to get through this sort of rush, the voter votes, okay, and the question is there a running count maintained? They put it in the box, they don't keep a running count. Okay.
They do have a running count of the voters who have voted, because every hour they have to update the roster list. for the
They
public to
mark
see.
them off every hour, but Sal, and they try to do a good job on that, they get really busy. I would not consider that totally.
Accurate, right?
No, I'm sure it's mostly accurate, yeah, and they try, but I wouldn't consider, I think what you're asking for is something a little more stringent.
Well, I'm just asking if it's done. I just
There's
didn't know.
not, I would say there's really
It
not a
could be a little
running
clicker,
count.
or you could use the scanner and they actually put it in and it's not scanned, but it counts them. I mean, there's many ways it can be done. Okay, at the end of the
Scanners
day.
aren't out there.
Yeah, scanners
Scanners.
are.
No, I
Scanners are not
know,
out
but
there.
they could have a little, click, a little machine. At the end of the election day, I call it the poll worker statement, because the ballot statement is something that I had to fill out as a candidate, and.
Oh, I see.
And so.
We call it the ballot statement on the roster. It's the reconciliation.
We
It's
found
the
that out the other
reconciliation
day.
on the
The
roster.
poll worker ballot statement is
Yeah,
what
I'm
we
putting
started
the poll
calling it.
worker statement because it's confusing to get that, but this is just for my own purpose here. All right, and the poll worker statement, that's what you're calling the ballot statement. And
That's what it's on the document, it's called.
is that in the
ballot
poll
statement.
worker manual as
That's
well?
in the manual, yes, it's
Okay, so we can
illustrated
take a look
in
at that.
the manual. I can have
is-
Darren go get some poll worker manuals.
Well, let's not do that until we get done, because I don't want to use your time for that. How is tampering impossible? How is tampering impossible when they make out their statement? They have to go through and count, how many voters sign in, do they count that? How many are completed, blank, soiled, provisional, mail-in ballots, they count all those things? Okay, is there some way that tampering is impossible at that point?
Well, yeah, I believe so, because they have to balance. They're supposed to balance the number of signatures in the roster. Now, understand they're tired, you know, and people's arithmetic skills kind of break down a little bit after, you know, about 13 hours a day. But they count the number of signatures in the roster. They
It's
count the
already
number
there,
of
are
unused,
they
they
all
count the
numbered
number
anyway?
of
Yeah.
ballots that were distributed
Not
to
everybody
them.
votes, so.
Yeah, they count the number of ballots that because they start with the number of ballots issued to them. They count the number of signatures in the roster, they count the number of voted ballots, they count the number of spoiled. And so that's supposed to balance, or at least, you know.
So they go through and handle the actual voter ballots, they take them out and
They take them out and count them, yes, they take them out and count them. And what we ask them to do, because it saves us a lot of effort, although we didn't get terrific compliance with this. It's something, you know, we still need to reinforce, but we do ask them to go through those ballots and pull out any with a light in, because, you know, we have to manually,
Oh, right.
we have no way, we had 3 qualified writing candidates, and we have no way of pulling those out, you know, short of going through them manually. And so that's part of the reason that the canvas takes us so long too, is we're going through that. So we have to, remember, we have to have those writing votes. So we asked them to put those on the top with a rubber band around them. Some of them did, frankly, most of them didn't, but we'll work on that. But anyway, yes, so they pull those ballots out of the ballot box, they count them, and of course we ask them to separate out the writings.
Right, and that's how they make an entry on the ballot statement. Basically, they have to do that, and at some point they are instructed to terminate if they are unable to balance, and that is by X time, or is it a set time, or is it?
Well, we
Because
pretty much
different
said, you know,
collection
try to be
centers
out of
stay
there by
longer,
10
right,
o'clock,
depending on
right,
the.
yeah. You know, if they can't balance, because here's the reason, there are a couple of common reasons why somebody wouldn't balance. If somebody came in to vote and they just didn't sign the roster, they're never going to balance. We don't want them there all night long trying to balance. If, you know, if the person just didn't sign the roster, they will never balance to the number of votes, you see. And you can't control that. And the same thing if the person, if they got a ballot, they came in, they signed the roster, they got a ballot, but they walked off without putting their ballot in the ballot box. You know, they will never balance. So we just say, okay, you know, we'll try to balance it for you.
Well, if they did take a run count as the ballots were put into the ballot box, then you'd be able to balance against that. That shouldn't match. And you wouldn't even need to count them for that matter if they did. You know, every time it went in, there was a little clicker that clicked them in.
Yeah, but then what if they fail to click it? I mean, you know, there's a huge human factor out there. Yes, in an ideal
right.
world, if everybody was as, you know, is
Well, I'm
on
just-
top of things, you know, trained,
No, I
fresh,
understand there's
etc.
human error that goes on here. All right, now they're moved to the collection point.
Uh-huh.
And now, before they do this, these people here, do they put them into what I was calling batch boxes or those other brown boxes at that point?
They put the voted ballots in the white ballot carton. There's a white ballot carton. The voted ballots go in there. The unused ballots go in the brown cartons.
Okay.
Only the voted ballots go in the white ones.
Only the voted ballots go in the white ones. And they did a great job this time.
Okay, then those white cartons, the batch boxes, are transported to the collection part. Do they put a seal on it?
Yes. And they did they got the seals on there. I was out there personally. I didn't see a single box.
I did, I saw 3 of them.
You did?
Okay.
They have them recorded.
They did a good job. I'll get the report. We'll get the report on that.
So-
I know that they were a lot better than it was before,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there was a ton of it last time, but this time, it was hard to find. So
I
I
didn't
will
see
say
one,
that.
but then I, did go through every box.
Yeah, you're probably not the person inspecting it either. Any records at the collection point? They're moved to the collection point then,
Yes.
right? Are there
It's
any
at the
records
collection
maintained at the collection point?
Yes, we have logs.
Logs. What are those called? Just collection point logs?
Collection center logs.
Okay. those include condition of the seals on the
I
boxes?
believe they do, I'm trying to remember, I believe they do.
Not sure,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought we were told that if they arrived at the collection center without seals, and then they would put seals
They
on
could,
them at
they
that
could seal them
point.
at that point, yeah, if they saw.
But would they,
Would
yeah,
they be
would
recorded
reseal,
that
but
they
I'm
were?
saying, would they record the fact the
Yes.
seal wasn't
Yes.
there? They would, okay, so, but you can double check.
That's another form for you to
That's
see.
Yeah,
another-
we can see the
another
collection
report.
center
Those
log, and
forms.
actually maybe we can take a look at the logs that they did this time. Okay, then they're transported from the collection point to this office. And a worker, I understood, barcodes the identifier in?
There's a
Is that right?
barcode on the label, on the white carton is a label, and it has a
Okay.
barcode on there. And we wanted that so that, we could make sure that we know it's in-house. And so, and then it turns a little, we had
Computer display precinct is
1,697
delivered, is updated.
things in the boxes, and they go,
Yeah, the matrix
Yes.
changes color.
Ray,
Okay.
excuse me, I just want to mention something
Yeah.
relative to what you just said.
Yeah,
This thing about if the boxes get to the collection truck place without a seal is put on,
yeah.
and a notation is made. That would be an important thing to do,
Yes.
to look at, because
Exactly, to see
that
the seals
means
from.
that somewhere along the way, if it didn't have a seal on it, who
Well,
knows?
and if
You
they
know, what could've
record that the seal was
happened.
put on.
I don't have any reports of them coming into the collection unsealed, but then I haven't seen all the reports yet. We're still,
Okay, well, we
we're
can
still
see.
compiling a lot of that information.
When you barcode them in, is there a check of the box seals at that point when they're received?
Yes.
Initial receipt?
Yeah. Mhm.
And where is that on the report?
We have a log.
Okay, so what is
We
that?
have a log at the tally center, it's the tally center log. That's the tally center, which is here in our office.
Is that the station?
Yeah,
what's
that's
inside the
that
building
station,
here?
right, you know where the conveyor belts come down the
Right.
long tunnel there?
Right, and they
Then
enter the
They come
door.
into the door, that's where that's
Okay.
all being done.
Okay. So is this called the Tally Center? then?
Tally
This
Center
whole
log.
thing?
Yeah.
So is this facility then called the Tally Center? Is that what we call it?
Well, yes,
An area
yes,
of-
but it's a specific area inside the warehouse
All
there.
right. Okay. I'll just write that down
The tally,
somewhere.
it's called the tally center.
Okay, then, there's an incoming inspection that I witnessed. They're received here, and the box contents are inspected, but I didn't see them counting the ballots at that point,
No,
is that right?
no.
Okay.
They were, you know what they were doing? They were inspecting the ballots,
Segregating.
for write-ins, because, the poll workers didn't, even if the poll workers did pull out the write-ins, we were fanning through those to make sure they didn't miss some, because, we had, and so that was a time-consuming thing. But anyway, that's what we did, and we also looked for any damaged ballots. In other words, if somebody had spilled coffee, or there was some torn, or something where we knew it wasn't gonna go through the scanner without being remade. So we had those boxes in there to remake. We also tried to look for, any obvious thing where the voter, if the voter obviously had made a mistake on the ballot. If they make a mistake on the ballot, they're supposed to go get a new ballot, right? They don't always, and so we try to, if we see it and it's obvious that night, we'll set it aside and try to correct it for the voter intent.
And if there was a box that was not sealed, would it be treated differently from a box that was sealed?
Not substantially, no. We would note it. We would note it.
Okay, so you note the seals, and at this point, is there a traveler that goes along with the
Well,
boxes?
the boxes are at the tally center, you mean? Where
Is
are
that-
we now?
I meant the incoming inspection here. We've already received it, it's been barcoded in, it gets transported over, and there's this whole batch of tables. And there's people there opening it up, looking through it, they separate out the DRE chips.
Well, that has nothing to do with the DRA chip.
Yeah, they're in a little packet there, there's little DRE chips that come into that's what I've
Oh,
seen.
but not in the ballot box, not in the ballot cartons.
It was in the ballot cartons when I saw it coming in on February 5th. That's where they put, where do those come in?
Well, the clear pouches
Yeah,
were coming in, no, there wasn't space in those white cartons.
okay, so
for
how do
the
those,
DRA chips.
how
They
do
were
those
They
come
were
in?
just handled in, they come in tubs.
Okay, so are those,
They're in those clear
you
plastic.
better back up then, because I thought those were put into the ballot boxes, or the white batch boxes.
No, I think so.
So they're transported to the collection point in separate boxes, or what do they put
Well,
in?
they bring them in, we have the red, white, and blue +2,
Tubs.
so, And then, so they bring those pouches in,
It's back
and
here
the
by
cell
the ramps.
phones, and they packed them in tubs, they have these gray tubs, and they have the tubs have the pouches, that's when they bring them into the collection center, they will collect those things from the precinct inspector and touch inspector.
Okay, so the touchscreen inspector transports those to the collection
Well,
center.
usually it's the precinct inspector, and the most typical return, because they have to be two people, remember, accompanying those ballots. So it's usually the touchscreen inspector and the precinct inspector.
So batch boxes are transported to the collection point by two people,
Right.
and they also transport
That little pouch with
Pouch.
the,
That pouch is sort of separate and hanging loose.
yeah, and then they put it in a tub.
Okay, so it comes
Yeah,
in the
and
tub.
put it in the
Boxes
tub.
are in the tub, the pouch is in the tub.
Right. But remember,
Is there any
we
seals
never
on that
upload-
bag?
Yes, but remember, we never upload that, the memory card from the DRE, that's not uploaded into our system.
I realize, but don't you rely upon the chips
No,
at all?
no.
Why do you bring them in then?
And we bring them in because we bring them in.
Oh, because the ballots are pre-made at the
No,
polling place?
what we do is we have the canister that has the voter verifiable receipt printer. That's what we use, so when all of that comes back, and this is part well into the canvass papers, we don't do this election night. For 750 votes, we don't do election night. But what we do is we take that canister and we unroll the tape that has the voter verifiable paper tape on it, and we remake those. We have,
Transfer,
TC3.
yeah.
We remake those votes onto paper ballots.
Okay, so where is that tape, the paper tape that comes in from the DRE machines? Is that transported in the same pouch?
No, that tape
Where is
is,
that
no, not the voter, it's
That
still in
would
the
be-
canister. I probably better double check. I'll double check and make sure that I've got that right.
Okay.
Because I'm
So-
pretty sure, Ray, that that's in the
Plus
canister.
canister
Yeah.
is somehow,
It's an attachment to the voter machine, the
Right.
DRE, and so they put the voting machine back in its packet, but then they put the canister, I thought they put that into the business.
They put the canisters in the supply boxes,
At least that's what we were
yes.
told.
They
Okay.
put the canisters in the supply boxes, so that comes in the supply box.
let's not get too distracted with that, that's a really small number.
Understand.
Yeah. So then the sign-in registered roster, okay, from the polling place, I just put this here, it doesn't actually flow from this exactly, but it's somehow imported into a computer system to note that the voter has voted at the precinct.
Correct. What we do is when on the roster of voters
Mhm.
has a barcode on there, so when actually it's really mostly postage, we actually wand the barcode, and what that does is it gives the voter credit for voting history. It gives them credit for voting.
Right.
It's a voter ID.
So,
right?
because it's their ID, and then that credits into our system. So when we go into our voter registration system, we know that person's voting history.
And that's performed throughout the voting day, isn't it? Don't they update that at all?
Oh, no.
I thought you could find out if the person has voted.
That's from the sheet that Linda was mentioning,
The
the
public roster.
public roster that's out there that.
That's something that could be improved. You could get the computer systems to do this.
If you had an electronic roster,
Yeah.
one of the things that we've discussed is the idea of an electronic roster.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, then when they come in here, the next thing is after the incoming inspection, I've seen they move them across and they group the precincts together if there's multiple boxes of ballots from one precinct, isn't that right? Okay, is there any logging or anything done at that
Yeah,
point?
we did, we had stickers on there, and we said one of two, two of two, we had a system of green stickers. And so they came back on a special card, that's what I was doing that to election night, I was working the boxes where there was like 3 cartons from a precinct. I think that was the most that we,
Okay.
I think that was the most. Anyway, there weren't that many of them, but there were
Alright.
some.
Okay, about how many ballots fit into one white box, do you think? Is it
Oh,
500?
golly, I think it was 700, but I can get that number for you.
Okay, it's not a big deal, I'm just wondering about how many fit in. These batch boxes are, I'm saying there's about 750 ballots.
Yeah, and remind me, something I'll verify. I can verify a lot of this.
Okay, well, we can,
These numbers.
then they locate the scanner card for each precinct.
Correct.
Now, does that card have information regarding the location of bubbles on the ballots?
Oh, sure. I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
it does. So they're unique to the precinct.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be pre-established for each precinct. Does someone track the step on, there's a travel flowing with this, is that the tally, you called it something before, is that the tally center log that flows with this, or is there a different traveler?
No, it's the label on the box.
Okay, label on box. Do they then mark the label on the box that they dispense the,
Well, I don't know that they mark
Electronic
the
card.
label on the box, but what they do is so the box, after we go through this process of looking for those write-ins, looking for any damage, calling out any ballots that we know are problems, then they go on to a card.
okay, can I interrupt you there for a second? When they do that culling out of the ballot, do they mark that down, how many were pulled out? They don't?
But there's
that's
a number
important.
on Ray, there's a number on the, well, there's not a number, actually, a number on the ballot, but the precinct number is on the ballot. There's a precinct number on the ballot, so if you look at this one, it doesn't have a sequence number, but it has the ballot type and the precinct number on it. So those get reconciled back to, that's what we're still doing. We're taking anything that had to be remade, any write-ins for the canvas, if they pull out something that has to
But if they pulled it out
tally a write-in.
to be remade or damaged or something, they don't record it, they pulled it out.
Not at that point, not at that point, but what's on every single ballot has a unique precinct number on it. So then, after they do that remake, that gets kind of all brought back, and when they're balancing the rosters, because we ask the poll workers to balance the rosters, but we balance every roster
Well,
too.
let me just give you, and I don't mean to be accusatory that people, that your operation is faulty or something, so please don't take things that way. But let's say you had somebody who was a worker there who consistently was damaging ballots. And so then you'd be able to see, if you're recording that, this one worker was the one who was coming up with a lot of damaged ballots.
Well, the
Do
balance.
you ever evaluate your system at that level?
I don't think we have any evidence that that's ever occurred.
No, how do you find out the evidence if you didn't record it?
Well, when we pull out the number of damaged ballots,
Yeah.
we put them in a tub that night. So we're looking through those boxes for a damaged ballot. That damaged ballot goes off into a tub. Remember, it's got the precinct number on it. And then we will record the number of remakes.
Okay.
So we would record the number of remakes. And then that will go back in with that group of precinct ballots. And then we try to balance the roster, So.
Okay. All right, let's go on. So they locate the scanner card. There isn't a traveler at this point. There's a sticker.
So there's the sticker on the box, right? And so those boxes, we've gone through, we've checked them, and then they go over just a short distance, really. I mean, you can see from one end of the tally center over into that caged area, outside where you were sitting.
The scanning area.
That was the area where we call them the memory card marriers.
Right.
And they take those boxes in there, and we had the tables lined up of people who had the memory cards in their possession. And it's all inside the cage. So those ballots go inside that cage. They get connected with their memory card, and then they're taken out into the other side of the caged area where all the scanners were.
So do they record that they don't record that they dispensed?
At that point, no, they don't.
Okay. So no.
It's just because at the end of the night, if you've got a memory card sitting in there, you're missing something, right?
Of course, but I mean.
And we also have the
question is how did it
barcode.
happen is the thing. If you don't have the paper trail, you can't find out what went wrong.
Well, we have the barcode scan from the scanning equipment that we do. Remember when those white cartons come in,
Yeah.
and we scan that barcode on the ballot box, and then to the time where we upload the memory card. So yeah, it meshes, and then we have produce a report at the end of the night to make sure that we've accounted for every single reason.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss ways to improve. I just want to get the questions answered. Okay, the back boxes are loaded onto a cart, transported to the scanner station, and I saw them putting the memory card into the box, closing the box, and then they put it on the cart.
I guess that's what they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. I saw them fumbling around with the box
Oh,
and
yeah.
so forth. Then a single worker scans all the ballots from a single precinct, which may include multiple boxes. Is that true?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I can't think of any deviation from that, but yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
The first step is to insert the card
Right.
and then create a zero tape.
Right.
Now, are jams logged? If there's
Well,
a
the
jam,
jams
do
will
they
be
log?
logged
During
on
the
the audit
scanning?
log, on the audit log. That
During
there
the
would be a
scanning?
jam. Mhm. Yeah, if a ballot hangs, or if there's a jam,
Yeah.
that gets recorded on the audit log,
Audit log is that the tape that
The
the
tape.
guy produced?
the audit tape.
And is it also put into the memory card? The fact that it
Well,
jammed, how many
Yeah,
jams?
yeah, I mean, that's because the audit log comes off the memory card.
Okay. Is it possible for the worker to selectively skip some ballots based on the vote and transfer those to the collection tray?
Here's what sometimes happens on election night. If a person is scanning a ballot and it goes through and it hangs, and they're busy, and maybe they turn over to their supervisor or something like that, the message on the LED lasts for 10 seconds. So the message on the LED will tell you if the ballot scans or snags something, gets held up for whatever reason, there's a message that says either it was counted or it wasn't counted. Okay. Sometimes, and this is what you were seeing on the thing, sometimes the person who's doing it, and understand we try to train these people, these are all like either volunteers or temporary help people.
Sure.
We train them, but if they don't see that LED screen, they don't either can't read it because it's kind of dark in there, or they're tired, or they get distracted, they turn away, whatever.
Right.
And then they think, oh, they pull it out and rerun it. They might do that. They might make that kind of an error.
But,
Right. Or they might
Rerun.
pull it out and put it in the box and it didn't count. So there are
so there's a
situations-
rerun error if they,
Yeah,
error
yeah.
possible.
That's why when we go through.
And there's one that it did, a rerun where it did get counted and they run it again. Or the other error would be, it didn't get counted, they didn't notice it. Okay. Would they also be able to just skip it, like look at it, see that it's a vote that they don't like, and just flip it into the tray? Is there any way that they couldn't do that?
You know, the
Not saying that
teammates are
they would.
standing there.
No. Is it physically possible to do that?
It would be physically
Okay.
possible for somebody to take a ballot.
So that
and-
is yes. Okay. At the end of the scanning, the entire precinct, the results tape is printed. And the results tape, does anybody read the tape
Well, no, not at that point. I
at
mean,
any time?
Well, they have to sign
Sure.
it.
They have to, yeah, they sign the tape. I don't know how much they,
Oh, okay,
you know,
wait.
they really
Who's
analyze it.
They,
The operator
the
signs.
the operator
operator.
signs the tape.
The
The person who
operator
scanned the
signs.
ballots, we witnessed them
Right.
signing the tape.
Yeah.
Okay. That identifies them as
So,
the
yeah,
tape.
the operator is identified to that
I
precinct.
think
So
he
when you're
puts
saying, are they just summarily like not counting ballots? That
He
would-
also puts the number of the scanner on the tape as well to determine which scanner was used to read
Operator
it.
and scanner is identified. And scanner ID, okay, and so they sign it, but is the ballot count compared with the incoming count? Like, do they know how many ballots they have?
We know that as part of the canvas, when we are reconciling those rosters.
No, I don't want to go sidetrack, I want to
I'm
just
not
get,
sidetracking, I'm trying to answer your question.
know.
You're really not letting me answer it.
I want this question answered. Is the ballot count compared with the incoming count at that time when they're sitting there, they just got done? Do they compare, but not later, I know it can be done at reconciliation time, but do they compare the ballot count to what they think they just scanned?
They have no way, no.
They don't, okay. Then,
They have no way, they can't stand there. If they stood there and counted those ballots.
No.
As they scanned
I'm
them.
not asking them to count the ballots. It would be that they would have a number that says, in this batch, with security tape or whatever around it, there's exactly this number of ballots. And then when they get done, it would have to match. That's a possibility.
Where would that be noted on the tape?
It could be
On
noted
paper?
in
the
the
box.
ballot box. Traveler, for example, if they had one, would say,
The reconciled paper.
this.
Does that show up automatically as well?
Well, the answer is no. The answer is no,
Okay.
so I suggest we move on.
Okay. Then they remove the memory card from the scanner and it's transported to the central tabulator room by another worker. Is there any records or anything at that point? I didn't put anything in because I didn't think there was. They just transported it in?
They just get it in there, yeah, they're just.
Okay. After the scanning, the ballots are placed into the batch boxes along with the results tape. Is that right? And then are seals applied to those? Are they sealed at that point?
No, they're not sealed. They're put in a secure area where they're monitored by security cameras.
Okay.
And the secure area that you're defining, there's more than one, but it's not just that it's in the building, this is all considered a secure area, because I think at one time
This
you
is an
had.
area, back behind where the cages are. This is an area that is, there's security cameras in there, they're positioned by.
It just,
Visiting-
the reason I'm asking is because at one time, I thought the clarification was that once it's on the grounds of the facility, that it's all considered secure, which was the reason why we wouldn't have a constant, continuous chain of custody. You might call it a tractor.
That is correct, that is correct, but we also have levels of security even within the facility.
Yeah.
And that's in a chained,
And
sort of
surveilled
lock
as well.
and surveilled.
They check in things in and out through, one person is in charge, but they check in and out.
Well,
like they do
actually,
with
we have
cars or
people, election night, are you talking about?
No, at any time, like in
Except
other
for life.
companies, when you have a secure area, like say for parts inventory, you have to check things in and out, just like an inventory control system. Do they do such a thing
They
here?
don't check them outside that area.
They
In other
never
words,
are taken
if
out.
they pull those ballots out to, if they had to rerun, like for example, 1% name or something, they would stay within, they set up the scanners in there, and they would stay within that whole area where our computer, we don't have the best facility. It would be
So they
nice
don't
if-
actually check it out of the inventory before they start scanning it again?
If they have to rerun it, rescan it, then that would be identified when they go through, if, for example, they go through they're balancing the rosters, and they realize, oh, we're off, something's going on here, and so they might rescan those ballots again to make sure that there wasn't an operator error. They would check for various, because there could be errors along the way. It could be a poll worker error, it could be an operator error.
Right, so-
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like,
Yeah, of course.
I heard you say that the memory cards are handed off to a person.
Mhm.
Does anybody have a signature when they take that in their hand to give to the operator of this system here so that it's recorded to whom that memory card was given? Because that memory card holding person is going to now go somewhere, it's going to go over to another room or something with it.
No.
All things not
the
being
short
perfect,
answer, the
somebody
short
could
answer
replace
is
that
no.
card
I mean,
or
they're
something,
walking
you know,
across, they're
so.
walking literally about 10 feet from the outside of the cage area over to the entrance to the computer room. There are multiple people there. The memory cards go into little boxes.
Is it two
and
people that do that, or just a single person that does that?
It was a
You
single
know,
person.
it's a single person, but
Person.
there are people.
If somebody wanted to replace that card, though, they could.
There were two sheriffs right outside the
That
cage
wouldn't
area.
change anything. If the person had a card in their pocket,
Yes.
they could
Yeah,
hand
you
that
could-
one to the
yeah.
other folks if they chose to. And if something
Oh,
terrible
Well,
was in the
I
mind.
don't know how they would create that card, because those cards understand, this is why we're doing this. Those cards never go outside the possession of this office.
Yeah, but someone in the office could create another duplicate card. If they had it with a high-end security clearance, they could do it, right? Could do it.
Well, I suppose.
So they could have an
Okay.
extra one for
Yeah,
that precinct in
that's
their
an issue,
pocket,
because we only have
if
one
they
of those.
happen to be the person who got to receive that
Getting
particular
Okay.
one. You know, we're just trying to look
Yeah.
at what if.
No reaction, because we have to assume that the worst, Okay, so the memory card is, okay, I have archive boxes are placed in a secure area. We already talked about how secure it is. It's quite secure. But people can go in and use the ballots. It's not a two-level type thing, and I understand that. Read the memory card. Okay, after it's inside the central tabulator room, it's read in, and votes from the scanner are added to the total. Okay? Okay. And then the audit file is updated inside and I'm going to get a copy of that audit file. I put that on the list here. Charlie said the other day that we could get that. Okay, are there any spot checks for the totals at this point with the scanner tape? Like, is the scanner tape, which just got made, signed that it was all right? Are the totals there compared with what actually got read into? the central tabulator.
No, because we don't, no.
So no spot checks.
We, no.
All right, and,
I don't know how we would even, I'm not sure how we would do that.
well, you could do it just by making another tape, for example, and then that other tape would be brought in and they would compare what got loaded in.
Well,
Would be
but
very
you'd
easy.
have to go through, remember, you've got hundreds of contests here, and you'd have to know that, you'd have to produce a result.
Okay, let's not
that-
go into the proposal. We can do the proposals later. All right, because we've got short time.
Well, and I'm almost out of time.
Does the audit file include all the information transferred? Example, the number of boats for each race, is that, do you know how? So
Well,
when it's transferred
that's the
in,
results tape.
no, the audit file, that is when the memory card is read into the central tabulator computer, an audit file is modified such that it's an audit log saying, we just read in this memory card and added it to the total. And this is the numbers of editions for each race. It wouldn't be equivalent to the scanner tape, but in electronic form.
I don't know the answer. Write that down and I'll ask Charlie.
Okay, not sure?
I don't.
Okay, question, okay. And then are the total number of ballots checked? Because we did have a deviation in the February 5th election. That's the reason I'm asking these questions. We had actually a vast number of ballots that were missing from in the 1% tally.
No, we didn't have a vast
Yeah, it was
number.
10% of the precincts were defective.
Well, Ray, let me tell you, I have this right with me here. If you want to go over the
No,
February tally.
actually, I just want to get this
Because that's an
question
incorrect
answered.
statement, it's an incorrect
Are the
statement.
total number of ballots checked at this point when the memory card is read in?
Not at that point. no.
Okay, just get the answers here. Then the memory card is archived into boxes in order of precinct number, I think, so they can be reviewed at a later date.
The memory cards, yes, yes, we keep them.
Those are still available.
Those are still,
We want to take a look at them. Okay.
Well, they
Right
will
now,
be
they don't-
erased.
they will be.
And that is
They're still available.
a set time frame or?
No, pretty much they're erased when, we go into the next, we have to reuse them for the next election.
Okay.
But
So-
there's not a retention, there's not a specific retention on those, but they're still there.
I've always worried about the fact they were not retained completely for all of them. I know there's a cost, but the fact is that's still all the information that was placed into
Yeah.
the.
If the audit file was updated and compared kind of thing, then that would be better. I mean, but if they don't have the detail on the audit log, they would have to go back to these things to see, and then compare them with the scanner tapes, which they're not doing, to see if they compare.
Maybe there's a recommendation in there, Ray, that would help us if we pull together somebody who just.
Yeah, I think I will be making some
Show it together
recommendations.
sometime and see.
The other thing that I have on here, which is even longer, is a vote by mail canvas procedure. I don't know if we have enough time
Well,
to
she,
do that.
Deborah, said that she had a certain amount of time, it's 11:15, I could check and see how much time she had.
Yeah, so you
We've
can
already
stop me.
over
but
our
you can
hour.
continue.
Well,
You wanna-
what,
you
why
wanna
don't
make another
you,
appointment?
I have another appointment, so.
Can we make another appointment and then we can come back in and I can finish this stuff? I want to go through the vote by mail canvas procedure as well. And I did want to also add to that, because is the test procedures, do you have, if we can just get the test procedure, written test procedure?
Our logic testing.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've got that, but
I think I provided that in the past.
Okay, so that's the logic testing. I think I've seen that too, but I just didn't have it when I did this. And the other one is, I mean, I'd be happy, if you had this level of detail already written out, I'd be happy just to transpose
Why
it.
don't you just email this to me and we can just provide written responses for it?
Okay.
And if you could even highlight one of your papers and give it to Deborah, and she could look at it if you have the questions already on a piece of paper, and you wanted to highlight the things you wanted her to look at for the next questions that you have.
Well,
to the other issue,
Yeah,
if you thought that that would help her.
one of the things, I guess, we talked about, let's go back to the 1% tally.
Time constraint.
You know, that's
In the
what I was
ideal
kinda
world, when I was
saying.
in Solano County, that's what we did. We reconciled everything and we did our 1% at the end.
see, we were talking about that, and we were trying to say, let's pretend we don't have any time constraints,
Mhm.
and we were saying that would be a more legitimate, because, well, I won't make an editorial comment on the.
Yeah, I know. The point is, we do go
You
through
did do that
all
at
of those.
some-
We do go through all of those rosters and we reconcile them. Now, I'm not telling you, 100% that we get everything. I mean, obviously, in the situation that I described, if the voter signs in or doesn't sign in, if they fail to sign the roster.
There's a lot of them
you
that
know.
don't reconcile,
Yeah.
definitely. But you're saying you did do that in a different county at one point?
Well, I'm just saying the
Solano County.
timing. In Solano County, what we did is we did the 1% after we finished the reconciliation process.
Mhm.
But we had the luxury of only having 160 precincts, as opposed to 1,697. So, you know, big difference.
1% would only be 2 precincts.
Yeah, we had three
But-
precincts, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
have
then
to,
we
you have to
add-ons,
take
of
a
course, but-
principled position on that. Is time, you know, I mean, you're under
No, it's
a
a
lot of
statute-
pressure.
no, it's a
I understand.
statutory
Yeah, I
deadline,
understand. And then
That's
we are,
something,
you
if
know,
we ever get
looking
into
at.
legislation, whether it's feasible to make different.
It would be wonderful if we
constraints.
had another couple of weeks, you know, particularly in a big election like this. We'd love to have another couple of weeks, you know.
That's possible if
But-
we were able to, you know, identify the things
Politically,
that
I
would
don't think we'll
help.
ever get it.
One, it's not something you can throw more people at. It is a fairly constrained process as far as what can be done at what, there's a lot of sequential elements which translate into time as opposed to throwing resource at it.
Just,
You
you
can't.
know, the Mongolian horde theory.
But a lot of things can be
It's a
done in
space
advance,
constraint.
like counting the ballots as they come in. You can buy, you know, counting scale, put the ballots on, it counts, you know, it'll give you a count of how many is on the scale.
Well, we have a count from the roster.
That's
We already
not,
have the
it's
count.
not reliable. There can be mistakes, as we just talked about, and you need to
Yeah,
validate that.
people don't count totally
Yeah, and
correctly,
the-
I understand that.
When it comes, we'd like to separate the mistakes that were made out at the polling place from handling, you know, the positive control of chain of custody within your facility, of saying, here's how many are here. And then they go to the next place and they go, did I scan that many? And, oh yeah, I scanned, oops, I didn't scan that many. I better rescan them on the spot because I got the wrong number. That would be a good way to do it, because then there wouldn't be this rescanning or failure.
Well, you know, I hear your point, Ray. We have an obligation. We cannot go home until we count the ballots election night. It's called a semi-official canvass. The law specifically provides that this is the semi-official canvass. And the point of the official canvass is to go through and reconcile these things that happen.
Got a
So
quick question.
That's the statutory scheme.
How many memory cards went missing? Because
Memory cards for the
I have
scanners?
to tell you that there's a person that's working.
What, memory
Memory
cards
card.
for scanners?
Yeah.
For the ballot scanners?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Or the DREs
No, the memory, the scanners.
that went missing
Mm-hmm.
on election night?
No. At the start of the canvass, I have to tell you that there's a person that has been emailing me on his own volition. I didn't know who this person was, and he contacted me, and he started giving me reports on a fairly regular basis. And he told me that there were 60 memory cards missing at the beginning of the canvass, approximately around 60.
I have no information.
Okay.
about
As of last week, there were 2 memory cards missing, and that I haven't heard anything about whether they had been found or not since. That's why I'm curious if there's still any missing.
that. I'm unaware of any missing memory cards, but I can ask.
Okay. Also, now, the other day you had a bone to pick with me, okay? And I appreciated that because I felt that what you brought out was something that I had complained about when I had seen it, okay? So now it's my turn. So I hope you don't find this, that I'm getting on your case or anything, okay? But the other day, apparently you and a bunch of ROV management people got your group of workers together and thanked them and had some sort of a pizza party of some sort. I was told that you read some letters, and a couple of those letters, basically they were thanking how well the ROV had performed on the election, but a couple of the letters insinuated that the people who are involved in the election integrity group are kind of disturbed people.
No,
And that another letter called us people with tinfoil hats.
no.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
The thing that did come out.
You know, this was, There are a lot of allegations, and some are kind of crazy and so forth, and, but there was nothing directed at anybody in this group, there was no personal attack on anybody.
On the manual tally thing though, in the February 5th report, you rescanned them through the machine and you detected lost ballots. And this was the same kind of error.
I'm sorry, say this again, in February 5th?
In the February 5th report, which is the last report that we've been able to see. And by the way,
And I have a copy of the June report for you.
Oh, good, June report. Was this not submitted to the Secretary of State?
No, we'll get that done when we do all of our cleanup. Never excuse.
One
That
more?
one, that one more for me?
Oh,
Is that all right?
no.
You need it?
Let me
Okay, no
make
problem.
another one. Or-
Afterwards, that's fine, or I'll get a copy, don't
Yeah,
worry.
we can.
Okay,
well,
so
we
here's the
can scan.
February report. I have the February report. And,
In the notes, it mentions
Yeah.
that there was,
Okay.
there was lost ballot, that the number of ballots didn't total up.
correct, and that's, remember, okay, footnote number 1. In the original manual tally, the team found 1 more ballot and 7 more votes cast than the system-generated report. Of course, the 7 votes would be attached to that 1 ballot. So what they did is they reran the ballots. Because remember when I was telling you how the scanner operators,
Yeah.
if they don't pay attention or they don't see or whatever, there's a possibility that they would run a ballot twice or
Right,
not run a ballot.
so there was an
etc.
error made in the
So
scanning
there was an
process.
error made in the scanning, they reran them, and it came out perfectly
Yeah, but
matched.
the purpose, this is the way I interpret all the 1% manual tally process, is like you're trying to find out defects. If you're running a production line, you would do tests on your product as it come down the production line. And if you find one with a defect, in this case, we have the production line is all of the precincts being scanned. And so, and we're sampling that. We get 1% of the precincts that are scanned. So we take those out and we say, are there any defects? And in this, we detected that that there was 2 out of the 21 sampled precincts that were defective in their scanning process. That's a 10% failure rate on their production line. Okay. Now if you extend that, you would say that there would be across, 1,700 or something precincts, there would be 170 failures in the scanning process if statistics works out and averages stay the same. Could be more than that, could be less than that, but.
That's the point of this 1% manual tally is to say, were the machines properly coded?
And
It's
actually,
not a recount.
well, it's actually to
She's
find out if
always,
they were.
that point has always been clear. You've always made that point clear.
It's not a recount, it is to say, was the machine coded properly?
And were
Did
they
the
scanned
machine
properly?
scan properly? These are operator errors.
Well, that's still counted as, if you make a lot of operator errors, that changes the
That's the purpose of a
vote.
recount, and.
You're saying you're not trying to find operator errors?
Well, if there are, yes, that's the reconciliation process.
But in this 1% tally, aren't you trying to find operator errors?
We are doing this, remember, before we do the reconciliation. We have to do this before we do the reconciliation. So it's natural that there could be an operator error here because we haven't done the reconciliation.
So the reconciliation checks
In
for
the
all operator
reconciliation,
errors?
Yes, and that's what we're looking for in the reconciliation. So when we get to that, all those 1,697 precincts, when we do that reconciliation, we will rerun other.
Wouldn't
to
you
check
agree that the
for-
reconciliation is actually the more legitimate review of a precinct? This is a review of the machines and
Exactly.
that's a distinction. It's worth noting and it's worth more discussion.
You're absolutely right, Linda. That's exactly right. This is a check that's designed to say, were the scanners properly coded, if you will? Were they properly picking up the votes for, a vote for you, a vote for Linda,
That
was
doesn't
Did
mean-
it flip votes?
Did it flip votes or something? Right, that's what that's looking for.
But it
The
doesn't really do that in this
reconciliation.
report, of course.
Yes, it does.
No, all you have is the total number of votes cast. It
Well,
doesn't show flip
you know
votes.
what, and I already told you, I would agree.
Can we get a better report for both the February and June election?
No. I mean, I'm not gonna go back and spend staff time on doing that. You can have the reports.
Okay,
You can
in
request
order
the
to
reports, you
reconstruct
can
that,
Come and look at
then
them.
we would need to get the report off the manual
Okay,
tally
I'm
sheets.
about the end of this session, so make any requests you want in writing.
Okay.
And,
Okay, well, you already have the letter that I sent. I think
Yes,
those are already
yes,
on there.
yes. And we don't have the November, so what we will be asking, just so you know, so
You have
it's
to
a little
wait.
surprise, we will be, you know, requesting an extension because obviously we're still working on the November election. We don't have that report.
Yeah.
We're going to try to provide, we will provide what you're asking for the November 1%.
Well, I do believe that by law, you're required to comply with what it states, which is any discrepancy has to be reported. That
That's not my
includes,
interpretation of the law.
that's what it says in the law.
It says any discrepancy, we resolved those discrepancies.
No, you have to report any
I
discrepancy.
don't read that anywhere, and we've not been instructed to do that, so, I mean, you know what, I'm not,
The
I don't wanna be
report- no, well, let me-
argumentative, because
let
I'm
me read
telling
it.
you, going forward, we're gonna do what
This
you're asking
report
us to
shall
do.
identify any discrepancies.
We identified discrepancies.
Well, but you didn't identify discrepancies in the vote. You identified only discrepancies in the number of ballots and the number of votes.
Read the footnote. The footnote
doesn't-
very clearly says
well,
what the vote.
If you look at, I mean, Deborah, this is not worth arguing about, because many other counties do report on the actual vote.
I understand, and I'm telling you, we will do that as well.
But I'm saying you should do that for these other elections, because that's what the law says you're supposed to do.
I don't
If you
agree
do
that
it,
that's an interpretation of the law. I do not agree with your interpretation of the law.
What
I
you
will
say.
agree to do what you're asking me to do.
But this report shall identify any discrepancies. Can't we agree that that means any discrepancy, any and all, not just some discrepancies, but it's any and all discrepancies?
Any discrepancies we found in doing that 1%, we addressed them.
The report should identify, so you identified that there's a number of votes that were missing?
You know what, I don't agree that we had an obligation. I'm agreeing that we will do what you're asking.
Going
I'm
forward.
totally agreeing, going forward, that we'll do what you're asking. We're gonna do it for this.
The data that would enable that type of report could be
Yes,
provided to us
yes,
if we
exactly.
wanted.
Yes,
So
yes.
you're saying you will not
Yes.
spend ROV resources to
Right.
do the reconstruction,
Right.
so.
Okay.
But we will provide the materials there if you wanna go back and look.
Well,
We
it's
have-
still,
We have the tally sheets, we have
it's still a
everything.
request that is standing, that I do believe the law says that you're supposed to do it, and I believe that you're in violation of this law if you don't do it. So the request still stands, and I'd like you to do it. Now, if you refuse to do it, then that's something that we can pursue on other avenues if we need to force the issue. But, that's what it says, and you're not alone. You know, there's many other counties that are not doing what they're supposed to do here. The fact that the report wasn't submitted at all, and there's many other counties that just say everything was fine. You know, they didn't report on it. Give us a very exhaustive
You know,
report.
I would like to work with you, I would like to satisfy you on this. I have, you know, there is a resource issue, and I guess, it's been out there, it's been a matter of public record, you've been in here, this group has been in here for almost 2 years, and these reports have been available for the asking, and, you know.
So it's
if
only
you're now
comply with the
asking
law
for-
if
you're-
someone asks
Ray,
for it?
No, it's not my
What's
interpretation
that
of the
mean
law.
now? Why are you saying that it's been out
It's not
there?
my interpretation of the law.
But
okay?
what is your point of saying
My
it's been out
point
there all the
is,
time?
my point is that to the best of our knowledge, we followed the law. We provided this pursuant to PRA requests. Everybody in this room has been invited to come in and observe this tally. Many of you have. Brian Ray's been here observing the tally. We've made the reports available. We've made the data available. You're now asking me for a new level of detail, which I'm agreeing to.
Okay, I'm just saying that I understand and I appreciate the fact that going forward, we're gonna get the new level of detail especially on this election. And if you're not going to want to make the more robust reports for the prior elections, then we can probably do it ourselves by getting this stuff that I've asked for in here.
Right.
And as I said, I still think, as I read this, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I can say the report shall identify any discrepancies. That's it.
Okay.
So, but okay, thank you.
I'm not an
I think
attorney
we
either.
need to get another meeting scheduled for the rest of this, or you want to do it by email?
I think, well, I mean, I'm always.
Can we have one for after the vote has been certified? Just go over
Yes,
some?
yes. And that's probably going to be more productive, because at that point, I'll have some of these reports, I'll have more
Okay.
detail. You know, we're going to be
So
doing
here's
our
the request, I just
big-
wrote that down.
Okay.
Oh, let me give you the original, that way you have a
Yeah,
clear
these are
copy.
the- We will be doing our own, internal debriefing, we pull all these reports together and so on. So, I mean, staff's still working, I mean, obviously you appreciate we're still counting, and we're still reconciling. So I don't have answers.
No,
to
that's why I
some
say
of these.
after it's been certified, all of this has been done. I think maybe a week after. When is it certified? December 2nd. That's a Monday.
That's
I
a
think.
Tuesday, next Tuesday. Right.
So maybe like the following Monday or Tuesday, we can set up
We
something.
can see. I don't know how many, it kind of depends, that's why it might be helpful if you want to email me the specific requests you have, because then I can tell you, do we have it yet? I mean, we'll provide it, but will we have it by that time?
The
if
following
you're like
would
a
be
lot of
December
logs and
8th or
so
9th, Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, because I'm interested, I'm always interested in numbers more than anything else. How many people voted, how many of those were provisionals versus vote by mail, and how many were just not counted, what were the reasons, things like that, so.
And that takes us a little bit of time. That takes us a little bit of time to go through.
So
that
when do you guys
information.
have that kind of information then?
Well, not a set date, it's not a set date, it just, the poor staff is so exhausted.
I mean, does it take another week or two after
Yeah, it'd be a couple of
certification?
weeks. I would say pretty.
I mean, because we can bundle all this into one meeting and we
Yeah.
can continue with some of the questions he has as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to get these questions, which are more prospective in nature,
Right.
instead of looking back at the actual data, which at that point would be, looking at that data. And this was more, I wanted to get this done before the deadline, so in case there was something that we had to do prior to the 1% tally, completion. But it's really nice to hear that you're going to make the better report. So I'm very thankful for your cooperation. You've been real good, Deborah, with cooperating on your side.
Listen, we tried.
Yeah, and I want to say thanks for giving us the time and opportunity to
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and
talk with you. So.
then we'll just email me with what you need, and we can see if we can come up with a mutually agreeable time to meet again.